No drip this, tell 'em run it on. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch. Tell 'em run it on.
Welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna be talking about something that I experienced right before I started to learn how to fight, before I picked a martial art to start training. Back when I was actually picking the martial art that I wanted to train and dedicate a lot of my time to, it was kind of difficult because I didn't know which martial art I wanted to do. Ever since I was a kid, I loved boxing. With my Mexican background, I grew up watching a lot of great Mexican boxers like Julio Cesar Chavez. I saw Marco Barrera, Eric Morales. I saw a lot of great Mexican fighters that inspired me, really. I just thought boxing was probably the best skill to learn. Watching Canelo fight, I just loved it. I love like the whole science of throwing combinations, slipping, counters. It was like a chess match. So I already had this type of bias towards boxing. I thought boxing was like the best martial art to do. But then I had a really good friend that I met in college, and he started telling me how Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was very effective. And I was always kind of like, all right, man, boxing is like the best sport to do. I guess I'll try Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And what ended up happening is we started rolling. He was, at the time, I think he was like a brown belt in Jiu-Jitsu. And we started rolling, and this guy knew what he was doing, man. He was controlling me. He brought me to the ground, and he was just controlling everything that I was trying to do. He didn't let me get up. He was controlling my body on the floor very effectively. But at that moment, I learned that boxing was the only martial art that I wanted to learn. I also needed to incorporate some jiu-jitsu into my game. So the reason why I chose mixed martial arts, I wanted to know everything when it came to martial arts. Kind of like the Avatar, I wanted to pick the best things out of each martial art and incorporate it into my game. And when I started training MMA, I learned Muay Thai, which was striking with the 8 limbs, elbows, hands, knees, shins. And I also learned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which was a great grappling martial art for on the ground defense and for grappling standing up. And then I also learned boxing, which was some great combinations with boxing. And then I also learned wrestling, which was very important for takedowns and controlling an opponent, pinning them to the floor. So I pulled the best things out of these martial arts and put it together. Even though I had a bias to boxing as I was growing up, I realized that boxing was very limited to just that sport. I couldn't just do boxing, because if I were ever to fight someone who knew jiu-jitsu and could bring me to the floor, it was game over for me. So I love boxing. It's one of my favorite martial arts. But the biggest reason why I decided to learn MMA was because MMA incorporated all these different martial arts, and it made me more of a well-rounded fighter as opposed to being very specialized. I feel like if you want to become a professional, boxing is probably the best sport to do, because boxers get paid the most and it's very specialized, so you can just focus all of your energy on that specialized skill. But in my case, if you want to learn a martial art for self-defense and you want to learn how to fight in every aspect, mixed martial arts might be the best thing for you, because you know how to defend yourself in any situation. You go to the floor, you know what to do on the floor. You stand up, you know how to exchange strikes. You begin to grapple, wrestling, you know how to defend yourself that way as well. Boxing, all they have is the combinations. If you start grappling with someone and they take you to the floor, you're pretty much fucked at that point. So MMA is a very great practical martial art that you can use in every situation. One thing that you will rarely see is a boxer try to spar or train with an MMA fighter, because they know that they can't match the well-roundedness of an MMA fighter. An MMA fighter is always humble enough to go to boxing because they want to get better at their boxing with the boxers. But the boxers, very limited the times that they'll actually humble down and go to the world of MMA to learn their skills, because they're not interested in those skills. They're set, they're very stubborn to their skill, their craft, that they don't really want to learn MMA. They just want to keep focusing on their skill set, get better at it. So they don't really pay too much attention to the MMA world. But MMA fighters like myself, I love to go to boxing and learn more from the boxers, because they teach me skills that I will not get from just training strictly MMA. That's another great point. that you need to see in both styles of fighting is that the mindset. MMA fighters try to learn from every single martial art. They are never limited to just boxing, just jiu-jitsu, just wrestling. They want to learn everything because they want to become better fighters in every facet. Boxers, on the other hand, they are very specialized. They just want to focus on boxing. They want to become the best boxers, know how the best combinations, build their boxing stamina, build their counters. They just want to focus on that skill set, so they become very siloed in their sport. MMA fighters are very different. They want to know just about everything. If you can teach them better combinations, they'll learn from you. Even if they get rocked a couple of times, their whole mission is to become greater fighters and better, well-rounded fighters. So it just really depends on what is your preference. What do you want to learn? Do you want to become a better specialized boxer? Or do you want to become a more well-rounded fighter in every facet? Like I mentioned, for me, it made more sense to become a well-rounded fighter because it taught me how to defend myself in any situation. And but if you want to compete, if you want to be a specialized fighter and actually become a professional, I think boxing is the best way to get to do that, to achieve that, because now you're learning the ins and outs of boxing, and that's the only skill set that you're focused on. It's kind of like that quote that says, wherever you focus on, energy will flow. And that's the same thing with boxing. You're becoming more of a specialized boxer and you're building that skill set. As far as for me, I didn't think I was going to become a professional, so I just needed a martial art that was going to teach me self-defense and that was going to give me more confidence in knowing how to fight. So for me, naturally, I went the MMA route, but it really just depends on the situation. I'm interested to see what you think. What do you think is a better martial art, boxing or MMA? Or what martial art do you prefer? Drop it down in the comments. Let's have a discussion. Let's bring the world of boxing and MMA together. If you're new to the channel, smash that subscribe button. Also, go ahead and give this video a like. I will catch all of you in the next video. Stay strong and keep on conquering. Peace.
Check. No drip, this wet. Tell 'em run it on. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell 'em run it on. I wake up, flex. Thumb down now. Check. No drip, this wet. Tell 'em run it on. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first